If you're a real fan of Borderlands, you will pay Randy Pitchford $80. And if you don't have $80, well, you're just going to have to find a way to get it, aren't you? So speaks Randy Pitchford himself, CEO of Gearbox. If you're a true fan indeed. Now, granted, I'm not entirely up on the Borderlands lore, so perhaps there is some subtle point I am missing here, but this seems like a statement tailor-made to make sure that nobody is going to be a fan of Borderlands ever again, as this is a rather conceited notion in a day and age where everything is getting more expensive and you're already selling what is, in essence, a luxury product. And to have this be the conversation with the fans as well. So, this begins with Randy Pitchford, who, if you happen to not know who that is, he is the CEO of Gearbox Software, the people making Borderlands 4. He says, "I'm so very excited for the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm even more excited to bring Borderlands 4 to this incredible magic machine." To which point this guy says, "Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increasing in the price tag." As was so very recently demonstrated with the severe underperformance of Doom the Dark Ages. And then Randy comes in and says, "Not my call," which is fair enough, but telling customers to not purchase your game has a pretty shit track record, generally speaking, in entertainment at large, in fact. And then it continues, "If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen." It's a very diplomatic statement, Randy. And he goes on to follow it with a little bit of an inspirational tale. "My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991, when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen." That is a pretty nice story, which we are going to assume is true, but Randy, I immediately feel the urge to launch a bit of a counterpoint here. See, when you bought Starflight for the Sega Genesis in 1991, I have this sneaking suspicion that you were actually given the full video game, weren't you? It was actually a completed product. Meanwhile, Borderlands, let's have a look here. Borderlands 3. 25 pieces of DLC and additional content in the Ultimate Edition, which at a 61% discount still hits about $100. Huh. See, that's the problem between comparing games then and now. Yeah, sure, relatively speaking, the price for a video game may have been greater then, adjusting for inflation, etc., but compared to how much additional shit you ask money for thereafter, there's no comparison. As if you were to assume, okay, let's guess that Borderlands 4 comes at $80 and has the same amount of DLC. And let's also assume that the DLC isn't also price hiked to be particularly charitable. Well, you're looking at a game that, to have a finished product will cost around, $300 odd? Now, we're no longer adjusting for inflation, are we? It's starting to get kind of ridiculous. And this is what we talked about just yesterday, right? The deprofessionalization of the video games industry, as these large companies who need more and more and more money to even stay marginally viable are all croaking. They're all keeling over dead because they can't support their own bloated goddamn weight. This has become common knowledge in the video game industry now because of stupid money, which is a great term for it, where companies get into video gaming thinking, "Oh my god, this is a golden goose. We'll earn billions off this. All we need to do is create the biggest, baddest video game ever from something those weird geek people like, and we'll be richer than Midas." Well, that is a potential, yes, but to do that, you need to actually create a good product first, which has been very, very difficult, and indeed, having a studio of 800 people doesn't guarantee a good product. In fact, there is literally no such thing as a surefire success. Well, except for, I suppose, Grand Theft Auto 6 or something, but even then, we saw, for example, with Doom The Dark Ages now, where they go, thank you for making Doom The Dark Ages the biggest launch in its history, 7 times faster to 3 million players than Doom Eternal. You may remember Ubisoft using similar verbiage with Assassin's Creed. Oh, we've got 3 million players! Yeah. That was a deliberate misdirection, as now that we actually have the numbers, they've got 300,000 odd sales on PC, and another 1.7 or so total on consoles, which still isn't bad, but you've still slapped on a million odd people to that number then, and that is over a significantly longer period again as well. So, when Doom The Dark Ages says 7 million players, what they're probably actually meaning is about 300 to 400,000 on PC total, and then maybe another 300 400,000 on consoles, although that is also dependent, of course, on how much Game Pass cannibalized their product and how many the $70 price tag scared off. And, well, the Borderlands name is not a guarantee for success either. Ably demonstrated by the Borderlands movie, a piece of entertainment so studiously shit that its only real contribution to humanity is an abject lesson of how not to do anything ever. Not how to write story, or characters, or scenes, or, well, literally anything. It is a living, breathing warning to anyone and everyone who ever thinks they want to make anything. And so, for not only the game to cost $80 potentially, but for the developers of the game to be this brazen about demanding it as well, knowing full well, by the way, that this isn't going to be an $80 video game. If it was an $80 video game, perhaps there is room for discussion. If you delivered a finished product at an $80 price tag, okay, you know, if there's like a couple hundred hours in that game, that's entirely reasonable, isn't it? But it's not. It's going to have 20 plus pieces of additional content. It's going to have 4 to 5 season passes, where they'll be asking you to buy into something that you don't even know what is yet. The simple fact is that video gaming is a completely different thing from the 1990s, when prices, and I want to point out as well, prices varied in both direction. Smaller video games were offered up for a lesser cost. You're not going to be seeing a AAA company cutting down their prices anytime soon. It's only ever the opposite direction. And now that there is more and more and more additional content and additional income streams from things like Game Pass, for example, selling licenses to such companies, having an income stream there, and also countless pieces of DLC and season packs, plus, obviously, a vastly larger audience, yeah, you simply cannot compare the two. Especially not as well in an age where things were getting better, contra 2025, where at this point we will all be deeply shocked, English, and surprised if the meteor doesn't hit us when it hurtles towards Earth. Yeah. So we have here a bit of a double whammy. One, you know, don't buy our video game if you don't want to pay the price, and two, if you're a real fan, you just gotta find a way to fork over that $80. Something tells me that this is not going to be particularly positively received. Not by the internet, not by the fan base, and not by the wider market in general, as we've seen a bad buzz kill more than one video game recently, and this seems like pretty much the recipe for one. Oh well, I've never been that big of a fan of Borderlands anyway, so Shrug. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.